Landman Season 2, Episode 4 hits harder than anything this show has delivered so far, and the emotional weight of it all feels like a punch straight to the chest. This episode doesn't just push characters to their breaking point, it exposes every lie, every buried truth, and every wound they've been pretending didn't exist. And trust me, once things start unraveling, there is absolutely no going back. Episode 4 takes everything we thought we understood about Tommy's world and rips it wide open. From the very first moment, the tension is suffocating because everyone is carrying secrets they can barely hold together, and every conversation feels like it could explode into something devastating. The biggest blow hits with Tommy walking straight into the emotional firestorm he's been avoiding his entire life, his mother's funeral. And what makes it even harder to watch is the way he moves through the day, pretending he's fine when he clearly isn't. You can almost feel the weight on his shoulders pressing down with every step he takes. The man has survived oil fields, corruption, violence, betrayal, and yet this, saying goodbye to the woman who shaped his entire childhood, is what finally cracks him open. And the worst part? He isn't even allowed to process it quietly because Sam Elliott's character, Tommy's father, shows up like a storm rolling in. He's not there for comfort. He's not there for peace. He's there as a living reminder of everything Tommy has tried to run from. The way he looks at Tommy is enough to make your stomach twist. It's the look of someone who knows the truth, who remembers the past exactly as it was, and refuses to let Tommy hide behind the version of himself he's carefully rebuilt. But while Tommy is swallowing grief, anger, and resentment all at once, the world around him keeps falling apart. Cammy, who has barely recovered from the shock of discovering Monty's fake fortune, walks into another nightmare she never expected. Just when she thinks she's hit rock bottom, she finds out Monty wasn't just lying about money. He was lying about everything. Every part of his life, every promise he made to her, every version of the man she thought she married gets shattered into dust. And the way she finds out makes it 10 times worse. That same smug, heartless lawyer who dismissed her in episode 3 finally tells the truth, but only after humiliating her first. And when the reality hits, you can literally imagine the ground dropping out from under her feet. Monty didn't just betray her trust. He created an entire second life behind her back, with things so dark and twisted that even Cammy struggles to believe them. Watching her realize that the love she devoted decades to was nothing more than a carefully crafted illusion is one of the most heartbreaking moments of the entire season. And the episode makes sure she doesn't catch a breath, because as she's drowning in the truth about her past, Morell is already circling her future like a predator, searching for its next weak spot. Morell's manipulation reaches a whole new level in this episode. On the surface, he's calm, collected, and supportive, exactly what someone in Cammy's emotional state would want to lean on. But underneath that calmness is a darkness that makes your skin crawl. He plays his cards slowly, measuring every word and every glance, twisting her thoughts in ways that feel almost surgical. When he calls Tommy a snake, he says it so casually you might miss the venom underneath. And even though Cammy fires back, challenging him on the spot, Morell doesn't flinch. He simply shifts his tone, delivering one of the coldest lines of the season. "He is a hawk," he says. "And hawks eat snakes." In that moment, he isn't just insulting Tommy, he's warning her. He's telling her he's already decided who the predator is and who the prey will be. And he's betting on himself. That's what makes this episode so brilliantly heartbreaking. The characters aren't just fighting enemies, they're fighting the people they trusted, the people they loved, and most painfully, the people they used to be. Tommy can't outrun his past. Cammy can't escape Monty's lies. And neither of them can avoid Morell's tightening grip. This episode makes it clear that the choices they make from here on out will determine not just their futures, but whether they survive the storm heading straight for them. The emotional weight of episode 4 only intensifies as the story shifts into its next wave of devastation. Because every character is pushed into moments they never wanted to face, and the truth keeps cutting deeper with every reveal. Tommy, who's already drowning in grief, now has to stand across from the man he resents most, his father, and pretend he's not collapsing inside. The moment Sam Elliott's character steps into Tommy's house after the funeral, the air becomes suffocating. Nothing needs to be said out loud. The silence between them is heavy enough to crush anyone. Tommy's pain is visible, but he keeps holding it back like he's afraid that if he lets even one tear fall, everything inside him will break at once. And his father sees it. He knows exactly what Tommy is trying to hide, and instead of giving him space, he pushes. Not aggressively, not violently, but with that calm, unshakable firmness only a father who's been through too much can deliver. He forces Tommy to confront things he's buried for years. Memories he didn't want to relive, truths he didn't want to accept, and the guilt he's carried silently ever since he left home. Watching Tommy crack under the weight of it all is almost painful, because for the first time, we see the tough exterior crumble, revealing the wounded, furious, heartbroken child underneath. It's one of those rare moments where the audience realizes that the strongest characters are often the ones holding the deepest scars. But while Tommy is facing the ghosts of his past, Cammy is being dragged through a different kind of heartbreak, one built completely on betrayal. The details about Monty's second life hit her in waves, each one more devastating than the last. The lawyer's confession isn't just shocking, it's paralyzing. Everything Cammy thought she knew about her husband, every memory she believed in, every story he told her, every moment she replayed in her mind to survive her grief, suddenly becomes a lie. She realizes Monty wasn't just hiding money. He was hiding who he truly was, and the layers of deception feel endless. Cammy sits there listening, gripping the edge of her world as it collapses. And the worst part is the way the lawyer talks about Monty like she was an outsider in her own marriage. Like she was too naive to see the truth. Like she wasn't important enough to know what was really going on. And that hits harder than anything else. Because it's not just her trust that was broken, it's her entire sense of identity. For years, Cammy built her life around a man whose real life she never even knew existed. Now she's left holding nothing but the shattered pieces. Meanwhile, Morell tightens his grip at the exact moment Cammy is most vulnerable. He sees her heartbreak, her confusion, her anger, and he uses all of it like tools in his hands. What makes Morell terrifying isn't just his power. It's the way he prides himself on understanding people better than they understand themselves. He studies Cammy the way someone studies a fragile object they plan to own. He speaks softly, chooses his words carefully, and presents himself as the one person who can give her what Monty never did: stability, honesty, protection. But every promise he makes is coated in poison. Because Morell doesn't help people, he traps them. And Cammy can feel it, even if she can't fully explain it. She knows something is off, but she's too overwhelmed to push him away completely. Episode 4 forces her into a crossroads she never wanted to reach. She can accept Morell's offer and save her company, even if it means sacrificing her independence. Or she can stand by Tommy, the one person who's been fighting for her even while his own world falls apart. It's not just a business decision, it's an emotional one. And either choice will come with consequences that will shape the rest of the season. As all of this unfolds, the episode wraps every character in a sense of loneliness that makes everything feel even heavier. Tommy feels alone in his grief. Cammy feels alone in her betrayal. Even the people around them, Angela, Bella, Rebecca, sense the shift in the air, but don't know how to pull them back from the edge. Episode 4 doesn't give anyone a moment to breathe, because the storm is only getting worse, and the heartbreak has barely begun. Just when you think episode 4 has reached its emotional limit, it takes another devastating turn, and this time the heartbreak comes from the choices everyone is forced to make. Tommy, who has been holding himself together by sheer will, reaches a point where the grief becomes too heavy to mask. After the confrontation with his father, he walks through his house like a man caught between worlds, the life he built on his own and the life he tried so hard to forget. Every room, every quiet moment, every memory of his mother seems to echo around him, reminding him of all the unfinished conversations and unspoken apologies he never got to express. And the guilt he carries isn't just about leaving home, it's about the fear that he waited too long to try to fix things. The episode does something brilliant here. It highlights how grief doesn't show up in screams and breakdowns. Sometimes it shows up in silence, in shaking hands, in the way someone stares at a wall a little too long. And seeing Tommy, a man who has stood against cartel threats, corrupt businessmen, and every kind of danger you can think of, absolutely crushed by this loss, is what makes this episode so painfully real. Meanwhile, Cammy steps into her own emotional battlefield as she begins piecing together the fragments of Monty's secret life. The more she learns, the more horrifying the picture becomes. It wasn't just a few hidden accounts or some suspicious business dealings. Monty had an entirely separate existence that he kept deeply buried. The lawyer reveals names, places, transactions, and patterns that Cammy never once recognized. And the realization that her husband was capable of this level of deception hits her harder than anything the business collapse threw at her. What makes this section so heartbreaking is the way Cammy tries to hold herself together. She refuses to break down in front of the lawyer. She refuses to let Morell see her pain. She refuses to let Tommy see how overwhelmed she is. But the moment she's finally alone, the facade begins to crack. She grips Monty's old papers like they're lifelines, flipping through them with shaking hands, searching for something, anything, that proves the man she loved wasn't a complete lie. But every page, every signature, every transaction silently tells her the same brutal truth. She never really knew him. And the betrayal doesn't just hurt, it rewires her entire understanding of the past 20 years of her life. Morell, of course, chooses this moment to strike again. His conversation with Cammy becomes even more manipulative in this part of the episode. He pretends to empathize with her heartbreak, positioning himself as the one person who can guide her through the chaos. He tells her she deserves better, that Monty never valued her, that she deserves someone who sees her strength. And even though every word he says feels rehearsed, targeted, and almost predatory, Cammy is too emotionally raw to fully push him away. Morell's genius, if you can call it that, lies in how he twists the truth just enough to make his lies feel comforting. He knows Cammy is desperate for clarity, desperate for something stable to hold on to, and he offers that stability with a smile that hides his true intentions. What makes this section especially suspenseful is the growing possibility that Cammy might actually accept his offer. Not because she trusts him, but because she's running out of time and running out of hope. Her company is collapsing. Her marriage has been exposed as a complete fabrication. And the only two people offering her a lifeline are Tommy and Morell. One is being dragged under by his own grief. The other is holding out a hand with strings attached so tight they could strangle her future. And all the while, Tommy and Cammy's stories begin drifting closer together in the most heartbreaking way. Both are dealing with truths they have no idea how to process. Both are being pushed into decisions that will define everything that comes next. And both are silently hoping the other can hold on just a little longer. The tension between them grows. Not romantic tension, but something deeper, something forged through shared pain and betrayal. Episode 4 makes it painfully clear that the world around them is closing in fast, and soon they will have to rely on each other more than ever. But with Morell manipulating from the shadows and old wounds resurfacing at the worst possible time, the question becomes painfully suspenseful. Will they stand together or fall apart right when they need each other most? As episode 4 reaches its final stretch, the heartbreak that's been building from every angle finally erupts, leaving the characters standing in the wreckage of the truths they can no longer avoid. Everything that Tommy, Cammy, and everyone around them has been holding inside eventually explodes into a series of emotional collisions that feel impossible to recover from. Tommy, still reeling from the grief of losing his mother, finds himself waking up to a reality he can't outrun. His father's presence lingers in the house like a shadow he never invited, but can't push away. And now, instead of avoiding the past, Tommy is forced to sit with it. Every memory, every regret, every wound that shaped him. The man who once powered through danger without blinking suddenly finds himself unable to fight the emotions he's buried for decades. It's one of the rare moments where the show strips away every layer of toughness and lets us see Tommy exactly as he is, a man who was hurt long before this season even began. And the heartbreaking part is that he has no idea how to heal from any of it. He feels responsible for things that were never his fault, guilty for things he couldn't control, and overwhelmed by the fear that the people he cares about will see the brokenness he spent years hiding. But the episode doesn't give him a choice. It forces him to sit in the pain, to look his father in the eyes, and to finally acknowledge the truth he never wanted to admit. Running away doesn't erase the past. It only postpones the reckoning. At the same time, Cammy reaches the emotional breaking point the entire episode has been building toward. More and more details of Monty's hidden life come pouring out, each one more shocking than the last. The lawyer's final revelations are enough to leave her completely shattered, not just emotionally, but spiritually. She realizes her entire marriage was a beautifully crafted facade, built by a man who was never truly hers. And the grief she feels isn't just heartbreak, it's humiliation, betrayal, and the loss of the future she thought she had. She feels foolish for trusting Monty, angry at herself for not seeing the signs, terrified because now she's alone, leading a company built on lies, facing enemies who are stronger and more connected than she ever realized. And then there's the moment that breaks her completely, when she realizes Monty never intended for her to know any of the truth, not even after his death. He planned to carry every secret to the grave, leaving her to clean up the mess without answers, without closure, and without any real understanding of the man she devoted her life to. It's the kind of heartbreak that doesn't fade. It reshapes a person. It hardens them. And we see it happen to Cammy all at once. This is exactly why Morell's presence becomes even more chilling in this final section. He doesn't just offer her a lifeline, he offers a future that seems stable, safe, and controlled. Everything she feels she's lost. But underneath the charm and confidence, his intentions grow darker. Morell thrives on vulnerability. He sees Cammy's heartbreak not as something to empathize with, but as something to exploit. And the way he positions himself as the only person who truly understands her, the only one with real solutions, the only one she can trust, feels like the tightening of a trap she doesn't even realize she's walking into. The suspense comes from how convincingly he plays the role of the savior, when in reality, he's the storm waiting to strike. Episode 4 ends with Cammy standing on the edge of a life-altering decision. Accept Morell's protection